and welcome you watching the Tuesday edition of This Is Exclusive with me, Shavan Sen. As businessman Anil Ambani makes his appearance before the Enforcement Directorate, here at Republic TV, we bring you what we are calling Anil Ambani loan case files. Only network to get its hands on the entire case files. What exactly is the Enforcement Directorate probing? Is it just 17,000 crore or way more than that? Tonight, we're going to put out the full details of the loan that was allegedly received by entities linked to Anil Ambani. Not one, not two, three companies. And was it the pump and dump system that was being followed? Tonight, all details only on This Is Exclusive. And not just that, the other incisive, in-depth coverage by senior executive editor Abhishek Kapoor from Israel. Ground report coming up in a short while from now. Up first, let me take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Indian Army camp in Lower Harshil has been impacted by the cloudburst in Uttarakhand, with Army personnel moving to higher reaches. Enforcement Directorate questions Anil Ambani in over 30,000 crore loan fraud case. Republic puts out exclusive details of the loans. Flash floods are triggered by cloudburst wreak havoc in Uttarkashi. Several villages washed away, at least 20 rescued by relief teams. Indian Army camp in Lower Harshil impacted by the cloudburst in Uttarakhand. Army personnel moved to higher reaches. Ladies and gentlemen, Anil Ambani was once again called in for questioning. In fact, this time, Anil Ambani has been called in for questioning in the loan fraud case. Who is he? He was one of the world's richest person with a worth of about $42 billion in 2008 and has experienced a dramatic reversal of fortune, now facing intense scrutiny from the Enforcement Directorate. The younger son of Reliance Industries founder Dhirubhai Ambani, Anil Ambani, is now under the scanner of the Enforcement Directorate, who's inherited a vast business empire in the year 2005 encompassing telecommunication, power, financial services. Now, his early success propelled him to global prominence. Recent Enforcement Directorate investigations mark a stark contrast to his once glorious standing in the corporate world. So what has really changed starting from 2017 onwards? Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, Anil Ambani reached the Enforcement Directorate headquarters in Delhi for questioning in connection with the ongoing loan fraud and money laundering case. Now, this comes after the Enforcement Directorate recently conducted searches. In fact, not once, thrice. The searches were carried out at 35 locations. 50 companies were basically under the scanner of the Enforcement Directorate. 25 individuals were being raided, which also includes top executives linked to Anil Ambani's entities. But what is intriguing are the details of this particular case, which dates back to the year 2017 to 19, loans that were allegedly received by companies linked to Anil Ambani. Tonight on This Is Exclusive, we bring to you the three loan sheets that put together in pure numbers the outstanding amounts for three of firms that were once linked to Anil Ambani. 39 banks have given loan to these very companies, with major lenders including Yes Bank, SBI and HDFC. The enforcement directorate maintains that loan files were signed by Anil Ambani when he was the chairman. Enforcement directorate also suspects the credit committee of the companies were following instructions of top executives. Let me first take you through loan number 1. In fact, this loan that was received by the company called Reliance Communication, it turns out that 20 lenders had given them the money. Let me just take you through each of the details that we have now accessed. Ladies and gentlemen, case files that we have, there are 3 of them. In fact, the first is linked to a company called RCom, which is Reliance Communication. And the loan sheet that we have accessed indicates an outstanding of about 20,373 crore rupees from all banks. In fact, Reliance Communication had taken loans from 20 banks. The highest loan, however, was taken from LIC, which stands at 4,758 on your screens right now. The 20,000 crore rupees loan that's still outstanding. What I'm essentially holding in my hands right now and the details that you have on your screens, it indicates that LIC, in fact, had given roughly about 4,758 crore rupees. Now, in the loan sheet, that's the highest that was received by Reliance Communication from the LIC. There are top 5. LIC, followed by State Bank of India, then Bank of Baroda. Bank of Baroda gave about 1,799 crore rupees, followed by IDBI Bank. That was about 1,361. Punjab National Bank of 1,300 crore rupees. Union Bank of India, it was about 1,009 crore rupees. And Bank of India, 990 crore rupees. Reliance Communication essentially received this money. In fact, this company actually did file bankruptcy at a later stage. Let's now get you the second breaking news. Can we fire the second breaking news first? And then I'm going to put out details of the loan files number 2 on your screens right now. Now, this is the loan sheet of Reliance Home Finance Limited. This is about over 20,000 crore rupees. Now, that is scam number 1. As I had put out, scam number 2 is about 5,901 crore rupees that was received by Reliance Home Finance Limited, which indicates an outstanding of 5,901 crore rupees. The highest loan was disbursed by Yes Bank. Now, let's put out the 5 top lenders of this company, Reliance Home Finance Limited. Yes Bank, followed by Bank of Baroda, then Canara Bank, Punjab and Sindh Bank, Punjab National Bank. A total of 5,901 crore rupees was received, a loan that was basically disbursed to Reliance Home Finance Limited. Highest loan came in from Yes Bank. Now, let's fire the third scam. This is the third loan scam. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to then take you through the key takeaways of the loan files that we have right now. The third is linked to a company called Reliance Commercial Finance Limited. Let's fire those ones. Reliance Commercial Finance Limited is the third company. I'm going to explain the web of transactions in a short while from now. Can we fire that? The third one is Reliance Commercial Finance Limited, and which indicates an outstanding of 8,226 crore rupees, loans that were given by 20 banks, while Yes Bank disbursed around 13,000 crore rupees. NABARD gave RCFL loan to the tune of about 1,175 crore rupees. Now, that's Reliance Commercial Finance Limited getting it. LIC, Yes Bank among the highest lenders as far as Anil Ambani linked companies are concerned. So this is the third that we have right now on your screens, full details of the loan that was received by RCFL, highest coming in from Yes Bank, followed by NABARD, third Union Bank of India, fourth Canara Bank, and fifth is Yes Bank. Now, these are the 3 companies that are now basically under the scanner of the Enforcement Directorate. In fact, Republic has brought to you the details of the outstanding amounts lying with the three entities linked to Anil Ambani, and under the Enforcement Directorate are at least 39 banks. From each of these firms, we will get you a roundup of the 5 names that are topping the list of the loan sheet right now. Let me just quickly take you through the consolidated report that we now have of these 3 companies and why these 3 companies are essentially being viewed by the Enforcement Directorate as the pump and dump funds. On our screens right now, let me take you through the top lenders to RCOM. RCOM basically got about, from LIC, about 4,758 crore rupees. From the State Bank of India, 3,628 crore rupees. Now that's the loan that was received by this company, which has now filed bankruptcy. Let's now move on. IDBI Bank and Punjab National Bank. Punjab National Bank is about 1,300 crore rupees. That's the loan that was given to RCOM. Bank of Baroda gave about 1,799 crore rupees. Now, as per the loan sheets that we have accessed, clearly these are the top 5 lenders of RCOM. Let's move on. There are 2 other companies, RHFL. RHFL got about 1,500 crore rupees from Yes Bank, about 11,300 crore rupees from Bank of Baroda. Let's move on with the third bank. Canara Bank gave about 6,500 crore rupees. Punjab and Sindh Bank gave about 5,000 crore rupees to RHFL. And finally, Punjab National Bank again gave about 2,800 crore rupees to RHFL. Now that's the loan trail as per the loan sheet that we have accessed. Now finally, the third company, which is under the scanner, RCFL, coming in from Yes Bank, 1,354 crore rupees as loan. NABARD giving in about 1,100 crore rupees loan. And then let's move on. Union Bank of India, 790 crore rupees. Canara Bank giving about 710 crore rupees. And finally, Bank of Baroda giving in about 580 crore rupees. Now that's RCFL getting from the top 5 lenders. Now we've put out full details of how the loans came in and went into which companies. Now I'm going to quickly explain before I bring in my colleague Aditya, who's going to join us from the Enforcement Directorate headquarters here in the national capital. How exactly was this loan being used? And what is it that the Enforcement Directorate basically suspects? Enforcement Directorate basically suspects that as this loan was actually coming in, before the loan was even sanctioned, some money was actually being transferred to promoters of Yes Bank itself. That is the reason why they're calling it bribe and loan scam. And that's exactly what they're basically looking at. And some of the banks had basically written off, which essentially means that they had become NPA. So how did the banks actually write off this loan? And was there any sort of quid pro quo? Now that's exactly what the Enforcement Directorate is basically looking at. If you're wondering what's the period within which this is being looked at, it's between 2017 and 2019. What is it that Reliance Infrastructure and Reliance Power has to say? They say that we have nothing to do with this because Anil Ambani wasn't even part of the board, and that's the argument that has been given. Enforcement Directorate sources have indicated that the credit committee, which is basically responsible for this, they had basically gone ahead and had got the signature of the chairman, which happens to be Anil Ambani. In fact, Anil Ambani, I'm given to understand from top Enforcement Directorate sources, was actually asked about these very loans earlier today. In fact, he has now sought 7 to 10 days time to come back to the Enforcement Directorate and produce the documents. Let me now bring in Aditya, who is joining us on this broadcast. Aditya is joining us from the Enforcement Directorate office here in the national capital. Aditya, with regards to the questioning that has taken place, first tell our viewers, how long was he questioned today at the Enforcement Directorate's office? Is he still inside or has he left?
Well, the questions were started at around 11:30 and still ongoing. Now it's around 7 and the questioning is there since for last 8 hours. And he's still there. The questions are around the part of whether the money which was sanctioned in the terms of loan was a part of a bigger scheme of quid pro quo. The second, it's about the Reliance Communication loans. The loans which were granted by the banks were used for the purpose not assigned to be used. And the third was about a forged bank guarantee statement which was given to assign a tender by the SECI. Now these 3 points are there on which the ED is investigating and interrogating Anil Ambani in the headquarters for last around 8 hours.
Aditya, with regards to the SEBI order, because remember the SEBI has put a ban for about 5 years. On what grounds did the SEBI really carry out that decision? Number one. Number two, what is the communication that SEBI has had with the enforcement director based on which this investigation is actually taking place? While I'm going to once again quickly take our viewers through the details, the exclusive that we are bringing to you tonight, the only news network getting you full details of the loans that were allegedly received by companies linked to Anil Ambani.
Well, the SEBI is working together with the ED regarding RHFL case, because in RHFL case, SEBI did issue a final order last year in which, and I quote from the order, para 62, page 203, in which SEBI did say that by preponderance of probability, the mastermind behind the fraudulent scheme is the chairman of ADAG, Anil Ambani. The matter was about RHFL issuing GCPL, which is General Corporate Purpose Loan, to the promoter-led business or the people who were RTPs of Anil Ambani, in which around 8,000 crores rupees were given without security, waiving of field investigation, waiving of any chance of default, or even waiving of any certain amount of policy which the company had for any individual which would have taken loan, but they were waived when the loan were sanctioned to the people who were related parties to Anil Ambani. On that order, RHFL was found to be having a lot of corporate misgovernance. In that, the SEBI issued an order banning him for 5 years from the security market.
Well, Aditya, I'll just request you to stay on with us because I'm getting in some more breaking news right now. Enforcement Directorate, in fact, is probing if the loans were granted as a case of any quid pro quo arrangement. Can we have the breaking news up right now? Enforcement Directorate is probing the loans, whether they were granted as a case of any quid pro quo arrangement. Secondly, they're looking at did the bank sanction loans despite a negative recommendation coming in by the risk management committees. That's the second. And the third coming in is after the top brass of we are being told that bank officials likely to be also questioned. Close associate of Anil Ambani, Amitabh Jhunjhunwala and Satish Shah have also been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate. Enforcement Directorate suspects that RCFL as well as RHFL have essentially been used to divert these funds. Now, on your screens right now, we have put out full details of these very companies that are now under the scanner. In fact, one of this company, which has basically been sold off to Satish Shah, we are given to understand there are basically only 3 employees, and that is the reason why the Enforcement Directorate is saying that some of the loan that was repaid, these were being repaid from companies that were non-functional, and that is the reason why they are saying how exactly did the money really come in? What was it being diverted? Was it being diverted to other existing companies? These are some of the basic questions that are being essentially asked right now. On your screens, the only network getting you full details of the case files, getting you details of the loans that were received between 2017 and 2019. They're basically looking at, can we have this line up, that ED is now looking at whether at all there is some sort of a quid pro quo arrangement. Quid pro quo arrangement is what they are basically looking at. Well, in fact, just a quick recap of what we know so far. The case files linked to 3 companies. In fact, over 30,000 crore rupees as loans were received by these 3 companies that have been linked to Anil Ambani. Enforcement Directorate basically suspects that these companies were basically used to divert funds. They are also looking at certain allegations of share manipulation. In fact, the SEBI The regulator has also flagged off certain discrepancies. In fact, the Enforcement Directorate is also looking at why exactly have these banks given the loan to these companies despite risk management committees flagging off the condition of these very companies. Despite that, loans were actually disbursed to these companies. Over 39 banks are now basically under the scanner for the loans that were basically given to Anil Ambani linked companies. Ladies and gentlemen, on 7th of October 2023, the world witnessed a shocking and horrific assault as Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel. Over 1,200 lives were lost, thousands were injured, and entire communities were just torn apart in just one single day. A partial ceasefire in January 2025 offered a glimmer of hope, leading to the release of some hostages, but for many families, the wait continues, filled with fear and heartbreak. Republic is the only channel to report from Ground Zero, bringing you an exclusive on-the-ground coverage of the current reality. Our first report comes in from Nir Oz kibbutz, detailing how Hamas infiltrated from three directions, taking advantage of disabled security systems and overpowering local defenses. This is a report coming in from our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor.
All right, today we are in southern Israel, and all those kibbutz and the Noah festival, which were targeted by the Hamas terrorists on October 7, on that fateful day, are in this part of Israel. And this is a place which has all those cars that were destroyed, and every car, in fact, we are told, has a story, and that's why you see those QR codes. So this is a Toyota Hilux from Nir Oz, which is a kibbutz, and this QR code, if you scan, it tells you the story behind who all were there in this car when these terrorists attacked and got killed. So if you look at this, for example, we are told this is an ambulance, and the terrorists had hijacked this ambulance, and unsuspecting people in those kibbutz, they thought this is an ambulance coming. And that's when they got targeted and killed. In fact, there were about 8 bodies found from inside this vehicle, which used to be an ambulance. Hamas terrorists had captured it, and subsequently, of course, all the rituals and the last rites were carried out. But this really gives you an idea of the kind of scale of destruction. About 1,500 cars at this graveyard effectively. This is very close to Gaza Strip, just about, we are told, 1 kilometer odd is the distance from where the Gaza Strip starts. And these Hamas terrorists carried out their air and land attack. It was a naval attack also, but this part, it was essentially a land attack with the Hamas terrorists breaking open through the walls and fences and coming in. I'll show you those couple of vehicles. And these are standard vehicles used in Israel, and Hamas terrorists got these from their side, from the Gaza Strip. Now, if you look at it, absolutely normal random vehicle picked up, but look at that structure, that steel structure, on both the Toyotas, and those were used to fix their machine guns. And they came riding on these and using the part where they stood and fixed those machine guns, and then targeted those unsuspecting civilians inside the kibbutz. And you can imagine, with the kind of advantage they had of the height, they would have the number of people they could target. About 1,200 perished in that attack on October 7, and this really gives you an idea of the kind of planning that had gone into the attack carried out by Hamas.